Okay, dear students, the next we are going to discuss regarding the another basis of the classification of animals, that is the body symmetry. What do you mean by body symmetry? In order to understand the body symmetry as a basis of classification, so we must acquaint ourselves with the terms which are associated with this body symmetry. See, the terms to understand, the terms which are required to understand the body symmetry as a basis of classification, as a basis of classification. So those terms are, the one is what is that one means? Axis, and the another one is plane. So what do you mean by axis and what do you mean by plane? The first one is axis. So what is axis? So axis is nothing but is an imaginary line passing through the central part of the body, the center of the body. So axis is an imaginary line passing through, it is passing through center of body, that is only called as axis. See, here there is no line is present. Just imagine a line is passing through the center of my body, then it is called as axis. Similarly, line can pass from the center of my body here also, from left to the right to the left side, then top to the bottom. So based on this, the axis is of two types. So what are the types of axis? There are two types are there. What are those? It is longitudinal axis, and then transverse axis. Longitudinal axis and then the transverse axis. Longitudinal axis that passes from the top to the bottom of the animal, then it is called as a longitudinal axis. If it passes from left to right or right to left in the center of the body, then it is called as a transverse axis. So there are two types of axes are present. So axis is nothing but an imaginary line passing through the center of the body. Similarly, the another one, what is that one? Plane. What do you mean by plane? So plane is also here imaginary only. So plane is nothing but is an imaginary surface. And this imaginary surface which is passing through, this one is passing through center of the body, that is also passing through center of body. Here also the plane is of two types. So what are those types of planes? Means they are also longitudinal as well as transverse. If it passes from left to right or right to left, means it is called as a transverse plane, and if it passes from bottom to top or top to bottom, means that is called as a longitudinal plane, right? Say for example, this is what the body of an individual. If a line passes through the center of it, then it is called as longitudinal. If a line imagine line passing through the center of the body, it is called as axis. If it is passing from top to bottom or bottom to top, means that is called as a longitudinal axis. If it passes from left to right or the right to left in the center of the body, means then it is called as a transverse axis. So this is what transverse axis is, and this is what the longitudinal axis is. Similarly, for the center of the, what is that one? The body of an individual, individual. A line is, instead of line, if the surface is imaginary surface is passing through, then it is called as a plane. It is called as plane. So it may be longitudinal or it may be the transverse also. It may be the transverse also. So imaginary surface passing through the center of the body, that is called as a plane. Similarly, imaginary line passing through the center of the body is called as axis. So based on these two, let us understand, okay, which are the types of the body symmetry can be observed in animals. Make a note of these points now. Symmetry. So what are the types of the body symmetry in animals? So those types are, first one is, okay, asymmetry. First one is asymmetry. And the second one is radial symmetry. Radial symmetry. And the third one is bilateral symmetry. Bilateral symmetry. So these are the three type of symmetries which can be observed in animals. So what are the three type of symmetry? That is asymmetry, radial symmetry and bilateral symmetry. So let's see, so what these three type of symmetry refers to. Let's discuss one by one now. First one is asymmetry. What do you mean by asymmetry? See, asymmetry is the condition where if any plane, nothing but the imaginary surface, if any plane passing through central axis of body, passing through central axis, here the axis is nothing but imaginary line present in the center of the body, passing through central axis of body, cannot divide that body into two equal halves. Cannot divide a body into two equal halves. Two equal halves. Then it is said to be asymmetry. Such a condition or such a shape of the body is said to be, is called asymmetrical. Such a condition is called as asymmetry and the organism is called as asymmetrical, and the organism is said to be asymmetrical. That is said to be asymmetrical. So this is how when the organism can be said to be asymmetrical, means if any line, ಯಾವುದೇ plane ಆಗಲಿ, any plane which passes through the central axis of the body cannot divide that body into two equal halves, then it is called as asymmetry, and such an organism is said to be asymmetrical. Andre, so ಒಂದು organism ಇದೆ, its body is having irregular shape. So any plane which is passing through the central axis of the body, if it cannot divide it into equal halves, ಯಾವುದೇ plane ಆಗಿರಲಿ which is passing through the central axis of the body cannot divide it into two equal halves, then such a body of that organism is said to be asymmetrical. So what are the examples of organisms or the animals which are called as asymmetrical? Nothing but here, the sponges. So sponges or the poriferans are the organisms which are asymmetrical in nature. So this is what the diagram, that is what the diagram representing an example for the asymmetrical organisms. Nothing but here sponges. But remember here, some of the sponges show spherical or radial symmetry also, but some sponges they show radial symmetry also. Radial symmetry. There are some sponges are there, they show radial symmetry. So it is very clear that one, not all the sponges are asymmetrical in nature, but some of the sponges are radially symmetric also. Is that clear? Okay, that is regarding asymmetry. So next type of symmetry is radial symmetry. So what do you mean by radial symmetry? Here, radial symmetry is nothing but here. So if any plane passing through the central axis of body, which is passing through central axis of body, divides into, which divides into two equal or identical parts, identical halves, then it is said to be radially symmetric or radial symmetry, and such organism is said to be radially symmetric. So then it is said to be, then it is called as radial symmetry. So it is called as radial symmetry. Such a condition is called as radial symmetry. And such organism are the animal is called as radially symmetric. So which is called as radially symmetric. Then what are the examples for this radially symmetric organisms? So here examples you can take, okay, coelenterates, next ctenophores, and adult echinoderms. So very good example if you take the starfish, right? So it will be having 5 arms. 5 arms will be present, right? That is pentamerous radial symmetry we call. So when such a pentamerous radial symmetry is present, say for example, when such a pentamerous radial symmetry is present, any plane which passes through the central axis of the body can divide it into 2 equal or the identical halves. Such a condition is said to be radially symmetric. Okay. So this is what the diagram of radially symmetric organism now. Right? Only the adult echinoderms are radially symmetric, but not the young one. And coelenterates and the ctenophores are radially symmetric. Along with that one, remember, some sponges also radially symmetric. So this is regarding the radial symmetry. The next is bilateral symmetry. What do you mean by bilateral symmetry here? So in both these definitions, radial and then the asymmetry, we used any plane, right? But now, only one plane. So there is a particular one plane only. Means one imaginary surface only. Only one plane passing through, which is passing through central axis of central axis of body divides into two equal halves. Divides into two equal halves. Then it is said to be, then such symmetry is called, bilateral symmetry. Bilateral symmetry. So that is only called as bilateral symmetry. See here, not more than one plane passing through the central axis of the body will not divide it into two equal halves, but only particular one plane which passes through the central axis of the body can divide it into two equal halves. Say for example human being only, right? For example, the plane which passes at this position here, central axis of the body, cannot divide it into two equal halves. Okay, if it is passed from here, exactly in the middle from here, that is longitudinally, then in both the parts, both half of the body, the two means limbs will be present, one leg and one hand, and here also one leg and one hand, like that. Then one eye right side and one eye left side. So both parts will, both half will get the similar body parts. Then it is said to be, what is that? Bilateral symmetry. Right. So such a condition of such a symmetry is called a bilateral symmetry. Example of the organisms which shows the bilateral symmetry. So here bilateral symmetry was first developed or observed in animal kingdom, in particularly platyhelminths. So example, platyhelminths. Right. Example are platyhelminths, and then the higher organisms, and also the higher organisms are the higher animals. So they possess, what is that one? Bilateral symmetry. Aschelminths also, platyhelminths also, annelids also, mollusks also, right? So except this, what adult echinoderms, coelenterate, ctenophores and sponges, remaining all phylums which comes under the animal kingdom will show this bilateral symmetry. See, if you take the example of organism, that is the crab. So here is the diagram of crab now, right? So what it is showing now? Only one plane which is passing through the center of the body can divide it into two identical or the equal halves. Then it is showing bilateral symmetry. Is it clear? So these are the three type of symmetry. The one is asymmetry, second is radial symmetry, and third one is the bilateral symmetry. These are very important one for the 2 mark, 1 mark and 3 mark questions in PUC examinations. Remember, okay, and read them very carefully. Is it clear, guys? So that's it regarding the body symmetry. Make a note of these points now. See, like the body symmetry, the arrangement of cells and the nature of based on the arrangement of cells and then the nature of digestive system, means whether it is complete or the incomplete, and what type of development has occurred in that organism in evolutionary line. There are 3 type of body plans can be observed in the animals. Among these 3, okay, the organism will fit into any one of these 3 body plans. What are those body plans? So body plans, so they are of 3 types. 3 types of body plans are available. So what are those 3 types of body plans? Means the first one is, okay, cellular aggregation. Cellular aggregation type of body plan. And the second one is blind sac type of body plan. And the third one is tube within tube. Tube within tube type of body plan. So these are the 3 different type of body plans are present in the animals, and any animal in the animal kingdom will fit into any one of these three body plans only. Animal kingdom ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಎಲ್ಲ ಅನಿಮಲ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನು ನೋಡಿದ್ರು ಈ ಮೂರರಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದಾದ್ರೂ ಒಂದು ಬಾಡಿ ಪ್ಲಾನ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಆರ್ಗನಿಸಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. Is it clear? What do you mean by cellular aggregation here? So here what happens in which the cells are loosely aggregated. Cells are loosely aggregated without forming tissue. Without forming tissue. If you take this line completely, then it refers only to the sponges. Right? So such organisms, what are those such organisms? Means this includes nothing but the example are here sponges. That is the poriferans. Sponges are the poriferans. So in these sponges what happens? Cells are present and they are arranged in particular manner, and they do possess the presence of division of labor, means distribution of work between one type of cell to the other type of cells, but there is no formation of tissue in their body. Such body plan is called as cellular aggregation type of body plan. Then blind sac. What happens in case of blind sac type of body plan? Yes, any idea? So what is the next type of body plan? That is nothing but the blind sac. What do you mean by blind sac means here? So in this type, digestive system will have only one opening. Digestive system is having only one opening. So the same opening acts as a mouth as well as the anus. Then such a body plan is called as a blind sac. So the digestive system is having only one opening, and the same opening acts as a mouth also and the anus also. Then such a body plan is called as blind sac. Right? So here the example you can write. What is the example you can write here? That is platyhelminths. Okay. Which organisms you can write here means nothing but the platyhelminths. In platyhelminths only incomplete digestive system is present, right? So it is an example for the blind sac type of body plan. Next, tube within tube type of body plan. What do you mean by tube within tube type of body plan? Means here the digestive system present as a complete tubular structure which is having openings at both end. So in this type digestive system is with openings at both ends. That is, one will serve as mouth and other will serve as anus separately. That is mouth and anus separately. Then such a body plan is called as tube within tube type of body. Body itself is tubular in nature. Within that, one more tube is present in the form of alimentary canal. So such body plan is called as tube within tube type of body plan. Example of this tube within tube type of body plan, it is exhibited by the organisms such as annelids, arthropods, mollusk, then echinoderms, and as well as chordates. So all these type of organisms are possessing a tube within tube type of body plan. And what about we human beings? To which body plan we belongs to, or which body plan fits into our body? Is the blind sac type or the cell aggregation type, cellular aggregation, or the tube within tube type of body plan? Which is correct? Yes, what is the answer? It is. Why blind sac? Separate openings are present, right? Mouth and anus. And we have a well developed digestive system also. Alimentary canal is present in the form of tubular structure. So tube within tube type of body plan is present in our body because we belong to chordates, right? Okay, make a note of these points now. See, based on the development of tube within tube type of body plan during the evolutionary time, so this tube within tube type of body plan in the animals is of two types. What is those? Or the animals can belong into two types. What are those means? That is nothing but protostomes and deuterostomes. What do you mean by protostomic organisms or the deuterostomic organisms? Or protostomes and the deuterostomes means protostomes are those organisms in which mouth develops first and anus develops later during the development of embryo. Okay. See, we know that within tube type of body plan, two separate openings are present. One is mouth and another one is the anus. Which one develops first, mouth or the anus, right? Based on that, okay, the animals are of two types, protostomes and then the deuterostomes. What do you mean by protostomes? Means so in which the mouth develops first, and anus later during embryonic development. So during the embryonic development, which one develops first here? The mouth develops first and the anus develops later. Such a tube within tube type of body plan developed is called as protostomic development, and such organism is said to be protostome. Then what do you mean by deuterostomes? Means what happens in these organisms in which the anus develops first and mouth develops later. During embryonic development. Such organisms are said to be deuterostomes. Then what are the examples for the protostomes and then the deuterostomes here? The protostomes example you can write here. Okay, what are the protostomes example means here? That is annelids, arthropods and mollusks. These are the example for the protostomes. For the deuterostomes here, the examples includes here echinoderms and lastly chordates. So these are the example for the protostomes as well as deuterostomes. So this is enough for today's class. The remaining thing we will discuss in the next class. Thank you.